training, founded with a steadfast commitment to delivering unparalleled education, the Academy of Emergency Sciences has consistently set the standard. Our distinguished faculty, comprised of specialist doctors, brings their extensive real-world experience to the forefront, ensuring that our students receive the highest caliber of education. From American Heart Association, AHA, Basic Life Support, BLS, to Advanced Cardiovascular Life Support, ACLS, and Pediatric Advanced Life Support, PALS, courses. Our mission is to empower our students to lead resuscitations with absolute confidence. Consistently top-rated courses, a testament to our unwavering commitment to providing an exceptional learning experience, proven by our countless satisfied students. Yet, our commitment extends beyond the fundamentals. Academy of Emergency Sciences goes the extra mile, offering supplementary courses, including the complimentary Advanced Airway course, enriching our students' knowledge. Join us in our mission to create a safer world through knowledge, expertise, and an unwavering dedication to life-saving. Academy of Emergency Sciences. Resuscitation is our calling, education our passion. In a world where knowledge is power, the Academy of Emergency Sciences celebrates a decade of excellence. For 10 remarkable years, we have been a beacon of unmatched medical training, founded with a steadfast commitment to delivering unparalleled education. The Academy of Emergency Sciences has consistently set the standard. Our distinguished faculty, comprised of specialist doctors, brings their extensive real-world experience to the forefront, ensuring that our students receive the highest caliber of education. From American Heart Association, AHA, Basic Life Support, BLS, to Advanced Cardiovascular Life Support, ACLS, and Pediatric Advanced Life Support, PALS, courses. Our mission is to empower our students to lead resuscitations with absolute confidence. Consistently top-rated courses, a testament to our unwavering commitment to providing an exceptional learning experience, proven by our countless satisfied students. Yet, our commitment extends beyond the fundamentals. Academy of Emergency Sciences goes the extra mile, offering supplementary courses, including the complimentary Advanced Airway course, enriching our students' knowledge. Join us in our mission to create a safer world through knowledge, expertise, and an unwavering dedication to life-saving. Academy of Emergency Sciences. Resuscitation is our calling, education our passion. In a world where knowledge is power, the Academy of Emergency Sciences celebrates a decade of excellence. For 10 remarkable years, we have been a beacon of unmatched medical training, founded with a steadfast commitment to delivering unparalleled education. The Academy of Emergency Sciences has consistently set the standard. Our distinguished faculty, comprised of specialist doctors, brings their extensive real-world experience to the forefront, ensuring that our students receive the highest caliber of education. From American Heart Association, AHA, Basic Life Support, BLS, to Advanced Cardiovascular Life Support, ACLS, and Pediatric Advanced Life Support, PALS, courses. Our mission is to empower our students to lead resuscitations with absolute confidence. Consistently top-rated courses, a testament to our unwavering commitment to providing an exceptional learning experience, proven by our countless satisfied students. Yet, our commitment extends beyond the fundamentals. Academy of Emergency Sciences goes the extra mile, offering supplementary courses, including the complimentary Advanced Airway course, enriching our students' knowledge. Join us in our mission to create a safer world through knowledge, expertise, and an unwavering dedication to life-saving. Academy of Emergency Sciences. Resuscitation is our calling, education our passion.
Good morning and welcome to the Resuscitation Essentials for Moonlighters, or R.E.M webinar. We want everyone to have the best learning experience possible, so please observe the following guidelines during the lecture. First, please keep your microphones on mute. Second, you are invited to type in your questions in the chat box at any time or ask them live at the end of the lecture. Lastly, the attendance link will only be posted in the chat box at the end of the webinar. A pleasant morning once again and enjoy today's lecture. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, and young doctors. Greetings and welcome to our distinguished webinar series, R.E.M, Resuscitation Essentials for Moonlighters, a tribute to the decade of excellence at the Academy of Emergency Sciences. As an accredited American Heart Association training partner for BLS, ACLS, and PALS, we have consistently upheld the belief that resuscitation is not merely a task, it is our unwavering calling. Our motto, resuscitation is our calling, education our passion, underscores our enduring commitment to the art of life-saving. The choice of the acronym R.E.M for this webinar is not by chance. It reflects a profound connection with scientific research, suggesting that R.E.M sleep is when we most effectively consolidate learning and memory. Today, we gather to deepen your knowledge and enhance your resuscitation skills, with the firm belief that the wisdom imparted here will translate into lives saved. This year-long webinar series is generously offered free of charge, our humble contribution to advancing the realm of resuscitation education. We are resolute in our mission to empower young doctors and healthcare professionals with the essential knowledge required for their arduous moonlighting shifts. We express our profound gratitude for your presence here today, and we invite you to embark on this journey of enlightenment with us. Together, let us strive for excellence and remember, resuscitation is our calling, education our passion. It is with great anticipation that we look forward to collectively advancing our understanding and proficiency in resuscitation. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. It is my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker for today's R.E.M. She's a graduate of BS Biology from the University of the East and took her Doctor of Medicine at the University of the East Ramon Magsaysay Memorial Medical Center. She went on to further pursue specialty training in emergency medicine at the Makati Medical Center and currently serves as the Deputy Medical Director in charge of medical quality, client and business development at International SOS, and also serves as an active coordinating doctor in charge of medical assistance services and aeromedical evaluation for the same organization. She is a BLS and ACLS instructor for the Academy of Emergency Sciences. Let us all welcome our colleague and esteemed guest, Dr. Christine Traqueña-Lor.
Thank you, Dr. Paulo.
Doc, you can share your slide already.
Yes,
Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. Can everybody see my screen? My slide?
Yes, Doc. We can hear you loud and clear and we can see your slides.
Thanks, Dr. Paulo. So good morning, everyone. Today's topic is fasten your seatbelts, and we will be talking about in-flight emergencies. So I have been introduced by Dr. Paulo Palad, but I would like to just say, this is my disclosure. So I'm a full-time employee of International SOS Philippines. International SOS Philippines is a medical evacuation and security company. And the opinions that I may be releasing today may not necessarily reflect my employer's position. So let's jump in. I would like to put in this scenario and let's all read. So let's say Philippine Airlines travel bubble was finally in place and you were on board a 4-hour flight to Japan. So as you settled back to watch a movie after the meal service, you heard an announcement. We are seeking the assistance of a medical doctor or any healthcare provider. If you are one, please identify yourself to a member of our cabin crew. What would you do? What would anyone do? Dr. Paulo Palad, are they welcome to put in their chat, in the chat box, what would they do? Would they volunteer, or would you not volunteer, or would you just say no?
I'll read there if someone puts a message on the chat box. But anyone is free to type in their comments at any time.
Yeah, so please type in. And maybe we can go back to this question later. What would I do? No, what would I do? Would I volunteer? Not knowing what the condition or what that medical condition is or what the patient is. So let's see, no? Let's discuss a bit more about in-flight events, in-flight medical emergencies. So in-flight medical emergency has been described as any clinical incident or condition that involves any person or passenger on board that has likely exceeded the ability of the aircrew to handle it. And so now they're asking for assistance from anyone medical on board the flight. And so the statistics or the data that you will be seeing here from now on are data that we have collected within International SOS, because International SOS has a arm for taking care of airlines. And so anything after this slide would be data that I have collected from our team. So let's call in-flight medical emergencies are as IFMEs. It can also be called as IFME, standing for in-flight medical events. And the slide here says the question is, are IFMEs a problem? So as you can see here, flashed on the screen, there is one event for every 600 flights, one death on board for every 8 million passengers, and there is one diversion of an aircraft for every 1.3 million passengers flown. So yes, it is a problem. It is a manageable problem, but we know that we have lots more flights and there are lots more people wanting to travel. And so this will just, increase. So the most common in-flight medical events are, and these are listed from the most common to the least, is syncope or near syncope. And we have gastrointestinal symptoms, followed by respiratory and then cardiovascular symptoms. I would like to show you this, and this is something that we usually share when we discuss about in-flight medical events in our companies. So there is a triangle of in-flight medical events where there are factors that would be leading to a medical event, and that is the time, which is the duration of exposure, and the window period of observation, the environment of the cabin or the aircraft, and the person. And this person, as we will see later on, this is the main factor, where a passenger would have risk factors and pre-existing conditions, then the risk for a medical event is higher for them. So let's go first with the environment. No? So the environment of the aircraft, and apologies, we have to have a bit of science early this morning, and this is just to touch on the laws that govern the environment of an aircraft. So the first one is the Dalton's rule, and what the impact here is, if we are in altitude, there is a decrease in the atmospheric pressure that will have a proportional decrease in the oxygen partial pressure. What is the impact for this, and what is important for us as medical people who may need to volunteer for a medical condition in flight, is that we have to understand, every one of us as passengers in an aircraft exist in a certain area of hypoxia when we are in an aircraft. And so those who would have risk factors would have borderline cardiovascular respiratory conditions when they board an aircraft may have more risk. Those who are anemic will have more risk. And this is also why when we are planning for, let's say, our evacuation missions, one of the more important questions we ask is, what is the hemoglobin of the patient before we say they are fit to fly? The next rule is Boyle's law. And so Boyle's law, for us, the importance of it is when we are in air, trapped gases anywhere in any part of our body will expand in volume. And so the clinical impact for this would be, have you ever experienced drinking cola before a flight? So cola will expand because there's more air, and so you have more gas expansion in your stomach. Those who would be post-surgery, if they have a bit of air where they've had the surgery, then they may be at risk for a pneumoperitoneum. If it is within the abdomen, a pneumothorax, or a pneumoencephalus or anything that has air will expand. So it's important that we understand this because then it plays into the management when we need to volunteer as the medical person in flight. Okay, so that's just the two science, and then we'll go. The next factor that is important is the travel experience. We don't think about this because we're all healthy, we're normal, but there is always sleep deprivation when you're trying to catch a flight, right? And especially when you have comorbidities or you have a schedule for medication, you sometimes forget because there's lots of things in your mind trying to catch a flight. And also a travel experience, and I guess one of the most common things that we take note of is because we are immobilized or in a period of prolonged seating when we are in an aircraft, then here is where the risk for DVT is. And of course, in airports, the distances to walk from where our gate is, the weights that we have to carry, and just really the general anxiety of trying to catch a flight, dampening your anxiety while you are in flight, takes toll, right? So that's the whole travel experience, and we need to take note of that. Not only for the passenger who has a medical condition, but for you as well, because you're also a passenger and now you're needing to volunteer as a medical person. The takeaway for that portion of the environment is that we have to know. So first, aircraft cabin is not pressurized at sea level. There's a different pressure when we are at altitude, and gas expands, and we are always at a mild hypoxia state when we are in the air. And the whole travel experience matters and is taken into consideration when we have medical conditions in flight. Now, let's go to the next triangle, which is time. And so for time, what I would like to show here and present today is one of the more common incidences that happens. What I would like to see as to show as an example is pulmonary thromboembolism as an example for time. As you can see in this slide, the farther the distance traveled, the incidence for developing a pulmonary thromboembolism increases. And that's just really also physiologic, right? And so the higher or the longer travel, let's say I specifically chose Japan as an example because it says in articles and in journals, the risk for thromboembolism increases when your flight is 4 hours or longer than 4 hours. So keep that in mind for everyone who is traveling, and you need to move as well while you are in an aircraft. We know there's cramped space, but you need to be moving. Okay. So the takeaway for this is longer flight times will increase the window for the opportunity to witness frequent events, not only thromboembolism, because longer flights, longer time for complaints to come up. And so you also see events that are also associated with flying. Those are still maybe medical events. So now let's go to the passenger. So the passenger is the last portion of the triangle, right? And so I just want to show this, just looking at the yellow dots and just letting everyone realize that air traffic is big and it's just going to be bigger, especially now that, you know, COVID restrictions have lifted and we are free to travel. And so the main takeaway for this would be pre-existing conditions and risk factors will be still the most important factor in developing in-flight medical events or emergencies. The aircraft environment and the time that you are actually traveling is not really able to make anyone ill. And we know this. If you're a healthy person traveling as a passenger and there's no aircraft problem or aircraft concerns, you will expect that you will be getting to your destination without any problems. I also just wanted to touch on COVID because COVID has been the most recent problem that globally we've encountered. The passenger demographic changes have occurred along with COVID-19. And now we also have to take note of airborne problems along with all the other things. Now we go through the last and the most important, you as the medical volunteer, and we will be going back to that question. Will you volunteer? Are there any legal implications if I volunteer? What happens to me if somebody would say what I did was wrong, right? So let's talk about medical volunteers first. And what I'm showing through you now in the screen is a survey that has been done for doctor passengers. You can see 57 of us doctors never faced the situation or only once before, 21% of them. 62% from the survey have not handled emergencies. And a whooping 81% is not familiar with the EMK. The EMK is the emergency medicine kit. And this is not surprising because we're not cabin crew. 61% does not know the correct cruising cabin altitude, and 46 from the survey mentioned they are not familiar or they are not comfortable with the use of AEDs. So that, I think, is still true. I personally will not be familiar with an emergency medicine kit of any aircraft. I do not know the correct cruising cabin altitude if I wasn't taught it. I do, however, I'm comfortable with the use of an AED. So there's truth in here, but it's also, if you are an emergency medicine specialist, then you may be familiar or comfortable, and some of this will not be true for you. But for the bigger population, this is still true. And not only for a doctor passenger, this is for a medical person as a passenger. And so now what? Now what that you've said, Doc, medical persons are really not comfortable with managing any emergencies while in the aircraft, right? And so now, what we have also told you in BLS, we keep it simple. We do the basic. Remember your BLS because an aircraft is a BLS environment. If you do the foundation, which is your basic life support, as how we have taught you, as how AES has taught you, and AHA, and you remember your AHA training, AES training, then that will be enough for you to help if that is something that is needed in the medical condition of the passenger. Now, I will also talk about GBMS, which is ground-based medical service, a bit later. And I want to just emphasize that you have to remember you are not alone in managing, and you're not alone in getting that burden of, because you're the medical volunteer, you need to do everything. No. Most large airlines, and the flag carrier of the Philippines is a part of it, Philippine Airlines. Cebu Pacific is also a part of it. So most large airlines count on ground-based medical services. And ground-based medical services count with experienced practicing ER physicians who are highly trained for their role in this. And so they will be able to help. You as the medical volunteer, if you are asked by the cabin crew, you can serve as their eyes, their ears, and their hands, because you're the person on the flight, but you have them as support in the ground. And there is also an app that has been released. It's called R.E.M. You can see the photo on the right portion or your left portion of the slide. It's an app. It's an application that we have helped develop. So basic is still key. BLS, and if you know your BLS, is still key. So what we have taught you in AES will still be what you can use, what you will use. I just wanted to show this because it may crop up as a question. In-flight cardiac arrest, and this is again statistics that we have been able to get because we are supporting a lot of airline companies. So 394 in-flight cardiac arrests, 97 of them were shockable, 297 were non-shockable. As you can see, the shockable portion, 22 survived to hospital, 11 survived to discharge. In the non-shockable portion, 297, and this is also not surprising, right? 2 survived to discharge from that arm. So this is a study that's that we were able to get from the calls that we have gotten in the desk, in our desk. Now, next question, Doc. What is the legal implication? What is the ethical consideration for me as a medical volunteer? If I don't volunteer in that question, in your question, will I be struck out of? Will my license be taken off me? So in the US portion of the world, they have the Good Samaritan provision of the aviation medical assistance, which says they are covered under Good Samaritan rule or under Good Samaritan law. And because they're medical volunteers, they shouldn't be getting any legal, they are not at legal fault when they volunteer. Now, in other parts of the globe, like in Europe and also I think in Asia, what the rule is, I think we are ethically and morally obligated to volunteer because we know more than a non-medical person. And I think also just really because of the nature of our job and the personality that is attached to a medical person, usually we will not be not volunteering, right? And so when I asked our subject matter expert for aviation, I said, have you seen any lawsuits? Have you heard about any lawsuits for any of the medical volunteers in the calls that you have had? He said no. And he also mentioned that for medical volunteers, as long as you are a volunteer, then you are covered by Good Samaritan. And so long as you don't ask to pay for to be paid for the service that you've given them, because then that changes, right? You're no longer a volunteer if you ask payment for the service, then you are still covered under Good Samaritan. So the answer here is, in that question that I posed earlier, I guess you're okay to volunteer, okay to not, it's up to you. But if you are worried about the legal or ethical consideration behind it, then you're covered because of the Good Samaritan law and because you are just a volunteer as well. And that's the next takeaway. Primarily, you're still a passenger. You're another passenger. You're not a medical person that was hired to help. You're just helping to the best of your ability. But I also added a one other consideration here. For those who may be frequent flyers here, and you are a medical person, I think you should also be aware of some aspects around in-flight medical emergencies, and always be prepared to act in cases of cardiac arrest. But again, be prepared to act. Remember your BLS, but also remember that you have ground-based medical services as help. So let's talk about ground-based medical support. So how does ground-based medical support work? So when we go on flights, right, at the origin of our travel, there's already gate screening. We call it gate screening. So you see these maybe flight attendants who look at you when you present yourself in the gate, and who screen you, like, right? And they look at you. How do you look like? Do you look like you're sick? Do you look so pale, in pain? And so they can ask for medical certificates, and they can ask some questions. Are you okay? And if they feel and they see that there's something wrong, there's something off with this passenger, as you can see in the slide, they can already contact ground-based medical support or medical service. And in our company, we call it gate screening. We have nurses and doctors in that team who can take the call from anyone in the airline about their passengers. So nothing happened, and you cleared the gate, and so you were on the flight, and an event occurs while in flight, and they can contact ground-based medical support if they have any questions. At any time, they can contact ground-based medical support. If it is a complex medical condition, let's say they think it's a cardiac arrest, an MI, chest pain, classic presentation. And so the ground-based medical service can help and will make a decision whether the aircraft will need to divert. So it's also not within your own decision whether the aircraft will divert. Actually, it's out of our hands as a medical volunteer. We can deliver the history and the findings, and as I said, we're the eyes, the ears, and the hands, and deliver it to the ground-based medical support, and then they give the decision to the captain. And between the two of them, the captain and the ground-based medical service, they will decide on a diversion. If it is not a diversion, or let's say captain is saying, no, we cannot divert because, or we cannot turn back because I have a full aircraft which still has a lot of fuel, and I need to release that fuel, then they also reach a decision whether they go into another diversion point or they will just go into the destination. So my example here is an MI, right? And MIs, usually they will be diverted. What is very good right now is in the phone call that will happen between ground-based medical service and the aircraft, they now can also contact the hospital where they will want the patient to go to, which is, I think, a very good addition, because then the patient then can go to a PCI capable hospital, right? And this is also something that we talk about in the courses that we have in AES, right? Selecting the proper facility, maybe bypassing facility that we know does not have the capability. So that also is taken into consideration in the decision-making process of ground-based medical services. Okay, Doc, how is communication happening? So as you can see in this slide, there's HF, VHF, and SATCOM. So different means of communication. The aircraft can have a satellite phone, or they can use high frequency or very high frequency radio. So it's like ultrasound, and the farther or the more advanced the radio is, then the better sound, no? So what happens is aircraft contacts a radio via high frequency or via very high frequency radio. And this radio then phone patches them to the ground-based medical service. Satellite, if they have a satellite phone, they can contact airline, contact ground-based medical service. So this is also an area where it's improving. So communication is also improving a lot, and they get clearer, better service, and they can speak to the medical volunteer or the captain who's relaying the information from the medical volunteer better nowadays. And that's just what I wanted for this slide as well. What I wanted to show you is this portion of the slide where you can see the passenger is unresponsive or unresponsive. This is an application that companies who have membership in international SOS is given now as part of their subscription. And it's really an algorithm-based pathway of asking questions. It's a very organized way of asking questions because we know there are non-medical people, and the flight crew is also non-medical. So they are able to answer these questions. If they have Wi-Fi in their aircraft, then the information is then sent to the ground-based medical support, and then they can give their decision, their recommendation. If they don't have Wi-Fi, then any means like a satellite phone or the radio communication, then they can relay the information they were able to get. This makes everything faster and streamlined. And so information is then also passed faster back to the aircraft. Okay, I'm nearing the end of my slide. What I wanted just to show here is from the origin of the ECG that Dr. Willem was able to invent. We now know we don't need a lot of space for an ECG, right? We have it in the palm of our hand. We have it in our wrist. And this is also something that we make use of in our other industry. In maritime, we also make use of this, where we can get 12 lead ECGs and it can be sent to our desk, and then we can interpret and then give further recommendations. So my point here is it's only going to get better. Communication and the means of assessment is only going to get better. And this is also something that we, as medical people who may be passengers and becoming medical volunteers, will be glad for, right? Because assessment will be better, and then the burden is taken away from the medical volunteer. So this is my last slide. My conclusion for this session is that I want everyone, you've taken courses with us in AES. Remember what we have taught you in BLS and in ACLS, if that is something that you will also be able to use. But for in-flight medical emergencies, keep it basic and keep it simple. It's a BLS environment, and you just have to remember your BLS. And the last one is you will never be alone. The large airlines, aircrafts, because it's best practice, and so they take on a subscription, and you will have ground-based medical support on land. That's the end of my slide, Dr. Palad. If we have any questions or any comments from the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Lor. That was very informative, very comprehensive, and very insightful. No doubt that we were able to benefit from your experience as the Deputy Medical Director of International SOS handling this specific type of cases. Now, we're live streaming via YouTube and Facebook, so I have a barrage of questions coming in. So do you have some time to answer some questions, Doc?
Sure.
All right.
Yes.
So I think this is a very important and a trigger topic for a lot of medical professionals, no? Since there are a lot of questions being asked. So one of the questions here is, Doc, pwede bang hindi mag-respond sa emergency? Kakasuhan ba ako pag hindi ako tumulong?
Yeah. So the answer there is no. It will still be within your decision. If you are not comfortable to respond to it, then that is your decision. No one will fault you for it. That is yours. It's within you if you don't want to.
Konsensya lang, no? Sa
So
Hippocratic.
kasi maybe yung concern doon is maybe you feel like you will not be able to give the best medical decision, and that is fine, because again, if we go back to the basic of medicine is we do no harm, right? And so if you feel like you are not capable, then you don't volunteer.
Okay. We have a question here from Micah. What if you are the passenger and a patient? If you are needed to be transported to the nearest hospital of a diverted flight, would you require a special visa? So I think yung visa mo lang is for your destination.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get diverted and you have to accompany the patient to the hospital. Is there like a special visa for that?
So normally, you will no longer be required to accompany the patient to the hospital. So so it's a diverted aircraft, right? And you land, you will stay in the airport, and then the system is very organized in a way that the ground-based medical service usually would have somebody already standing by, like an ambulance, and it's a complete ambulance with a medical team who will then be able to transfer the patient to the facility. And then what happens is, let's say it's a diverted aircraft, but they can fly again, then you can then go to your destination. So that's what usually happens. That's how it was explained to me. But let's say it's a diverted flight and they needed to ground the aircraft. And so ang additional lang doon is the burden of not getting to your destination. And the airline will usually shoulder the hotel, the food cost, because you are grounded.
All right. I think our participants' interest in the app got piqued. No? So someone is asking, Jonin is asking, would like to ask where we can access the AirRx app. I searched on Android and Apple, not available. Thank you.
Yes. So the AirRx kasi is an app that was developed for a specific company also. And so that company will only be sharing it with the passenger who is in their aircraft. Like what we also do kasi I showed you two applications, the AirRx and our application. It is a membership only, a subscription only, and so you will not be able to see this unless you are maybe the medical volunteer of the airline. And they will be showing you, these are the questions that we want asked to the passenger.
All right.
So it's not it's not an app that you can just see in Google or when you go into Play Store, because it is a paid for application. And I just wanted to create the awareness that there are apps, and likely the aircraft, the flight crew member crew member, the cabin crew who is managing the passenger will already have that app in place and will ask for your assistance if you can, can we ask this? Can we ask this? Can we ask this? Yon. So it's, I'm sorry, it's not free, but it is available just for the aircraft or the airline.
All right. Thank you, Doc Kraki. I'll read three more questions because there's a lot, but I know you're very busy running your organization. But I'll just read three more questions if you don't mind.
It's okay.
When do you
Go.
ask the plane to make an emergency landing?
When?
I guess what scenarios do you ask the
Ah,
pilot to make an emergency landing?
yes. So along with discussions with the ground-based medical support, if it is, let's say, an MI, because we know we're very limited. We cannot actually do anything, no? For an MI patient or a stroke patient, then those are the common, common reasons, common medical conditions that will that a diversion is being called for. Sorry, yung those are the two most common.
MI, all right.
MI and
Stroke?
a stroke.
Stroke, yeah.
Now, what about
I know.
cardiac arrest?
Yeah.
Kasi baka yun yung susunod na tanong, di ba?
Actually, may tanong na for cardiac arrest, pero since inunahan mo na, Doc, thank you. Yeah.
So cardiac arrest, it will depend on the decision of the ground-based medical support and the team, the flight crew, cabin crew, and the captain who's handling the arrest. Because as I mentioned, no, ang experience namin was, as I said, there are just really very small true emergencies. Some of the emergencies are actually not emergencies, and we encounter in this industry, we encounter a lot of near syncope and syncope, and they start BLS, and then the passenger regains consciousness. But for the true cardiac events, if they are continuing BLS, it's a discussion whether there are diversion points and whether the diversion for the diversion point would have good facility for that arrested patient ongoing cardiac resuscitation, or they will need to look at other diversions. So medyo doon madugong usapan or madugong discussion between the captain and the ground-based medical services. There have been instances where unfortunately the cardiac arrest, we really cannot do anything with cardiac arrest, right? We're very limited. When we say BLS is the only thing we can do, yes, BLS is really the only thing we can do. But if we are not successful with a cardiac arrest on board, sometimes they continue on to the destination and they manage the death in the destination.
Right. I'm curious myself, where do you do the CPR, or where is it recommended to do the CPR? Is it on the emergency exit? Is it dun sa food preparation area, or on the rail? Where do you do it?
Where space is available, they will try to do it as much as possible where there's lesser traffic. But if they cannot do it, if they cannot get the patient on, kasi kung halimbawa nandun siya sa pinakamalayo, then where space is allowed, and they will do that there.
I see. So anywhere where there's space, ano?
Oo. So usually yun sa may galley, doon sa may preparation nila, they will try to bring the patient there.
All right. Okay. There's still a lot more questions, but I'll just read the last two, no? So sorry I can't read all the questions because we're being flooded in social media, no? Here, Good day, Doctor. Just curious about ano po usually ang nasa EMK ng isang aircraft. Thank you,
Yeah.
Doc.
So EMKs, emergency medicine kit, they will follow basic requirement, and the basic requirement is given by the ICAO. So this is the Civil Aviation Authority, and it is sort of like it's a basic minimum requirement where it's listed, no? And then the aircraft or the airline is free to add more if they want to. So ang basic, they would have the basic for anxiety medications, allergy medications. Some of them would only have epinephrine vial. Some of them would have EpiPen, yung medyo mayayamang airlines. Tapos they would have just the basic for actually not every aircraft would have ACLS meds, and it's for pain, the more common over-the-counter drugs, they would have that. Anxiety, they may have benzos, but it will really depend on the airline and their risk appetite kung ano yung ilalagay nila sa emergency medicine kit nila. So what happens with us is the airline shares the emergency medicine kit with International SOS, MedAir, and we have that on file. And then when there is a medical emergency on board, we look at the medical kit. We go as far as, let's say, what's the difference between maritime and air is smaller, di ba? Yung aircraft is smaller. So it's not really a big box of medications. It's actually a bag, just a bag. And we go so far as to say, this is where you look for it, for the medication in this kit in the bag. So naka-label siya. But depende rin sa risk appetite ng aircraft kung ano yung mga medications nila sa loob ng medicine kit nila. But it will be basic. And from what I've seen in what I was shown, mostly for allergies, for pain, for fever, for anxiety.
All right.
Yun. And then gastrointestinal.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Final question. So comes from Victor Castillo. Is decompression sickness a medical emergency, or may I delay until the destination? I think generally divers are not allowed to fly several hours after they drive, but there are some hard-headed divers, diba, that they fly. So, in this case.
Sorry. So we know divers shouldn't be flying within 24 hours after their last dive. But we also know there are people who will try it, and then they get sick on the plane because, as we said, expansion of gas will happen everywhere in all the parts of our body where there's air. And so the diversion discussion there is whether he or she or that passenger will be in imminent life-threatening danger, right? Like if he is actually really showing neurologic symptoms and you think it's a stroke talaga, then it might be a diversion. But it will be dependent, and the discussion will be dependent on the medical condition, the presentation of the symptoms of the passenger, the risk, and the yung time to divert. Kung halimbawa, ang diversion point is maybe 2 hours and the actual destination will be roughly 3 hours, maybe they will not decide on a diversion, they will go to the destination. So that is where the discussion really is. Yung meat of the discussion will be with the ground-based medical support.
I
It can
guess that
still be a diversion.
right. Okay.
Mm-mm.
So I guess that's it. No? Thank you so much, Dr. Lore, no, for sharing your invaluable experience with our young doctors and those who have joined us via YouTube and Facebook Live and via Zoom. This was really eye-opening and very enlightening, no? To hear your insights on the matter, right? So we thank you for sharing your time with us. We thank you to our audience and our students who are joining us by all different platforms, no? So we look forward to seeing you again next month. On April 11, we will have our next REM where we'll do talk about the reversible causes of cardiac arrest with Dr. Sam Cosalan. So attendance link is on the chat box for those of you joining us via Facebook, YouTube, and via Zoom. So we hope to see you again. So thanks again. Thank you, Dr. Lore, and have a pleasant day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.